There's so much tradition, such a rich culture with it. And then when we actually researched and searched, we actually found that like cannabis was one of the 5 sacred plants mentioned in our
Vedas.
Vedas.
Yeah.
Medical cannabis, thinking about it, was like ganja.
We really want to understand the history with this plant, and we really want to understand how it is utilized in India, what is its roots, and how can we make this accessible for people across India. We didn't know how.
Yeah, we
Right.
didn't go with
We did not know
big
how.
aspirations. Our simple goal was how can you make the plant more accessible?
Hello, BO family, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Barely Opinionated Show. In this one, we have Loveena and Rohit, the founders of a cannabis based wellness company called India Hemp Organics. This conversation is all about the cannabis industry in India and around the world. We dive into the history of how cannabis has been part of our culture for centuries, the hypocrisy of the West in getting cannabis banned across the world, the different ways in which cannabis can be used, by the way, which is apparently 25,000 different ways, and whether cannabis will ever be legalized in India or not. So if you're someone who's interested in this industry or cannabis as a plant, this is the podcast for you. But before we jump ahead, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like because it helps with the algorithm. So strap in and let's just jump into it. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Rohit and
Thank
Loveena,
you.
to the Barely Opinionated Show. Thank you so much for giving me your time. How are you guys doing?
Great, man.
Comfortable?
Super.
Very.
Yeah. Awesome. So, of course, you guys are the founders of India Hemp Organic. How did you guys even jump into the cannabis space, first of all?
Well,
Long story.
it really is one. I will try to make it short. It's actually a very personal incident, and
Okay.
I think those stories are the most transformational as well. So, long story short, in 2017, I had actually gone for my first Vipassana. For, if you don't know, it's a 10-day long meditation retreat, and you meditate for 10 hours a day for
Wow.
10 days.
Okay.
So obviously, when it's like a deep surgical operation of your mind.
Right.
Now, when I came out of it, I was very headstrong, ready to take on any challenge that was thrown at me. Little did I know, less than 2 weeks after that, I met with the worst accident of my life. And
Okay.
touch wood, I hope the last. Um, in fact, I'll show you some images later. But I woke up in the ICU and I had skidded on my face. So my face was completely full of blood. I broke my right cheekbone, got 32 stitches on my face, lips were torn apart, multiple bruises and injuries. Basically, completely unrecognizable. And obviously, initially you're still optimistic, but what followed was very strong painkiller treatments because I couldn't consume any solid food, none of that. And those painkillers were typically opioids. Now, when you are consumed on such high opioid medication, it also numbs you down completely from within. So, Rohit actually hails from a family of doctors. It's a lineage of doctors, and I think he's the first black sheep.
I'm the only black sheep in my family. You throw a stone, you'll hit some doctor somewhere, right? So then after seeing her like sort of like suffer, right, going through like physical pain, mental trauma, I was just looking for anything that could help like speed up her like recovery process. And I think at that time, 2017, we were both whatever boyfriend, girlfriend, and we were young in love, and
Yeah, for context, they are married now.
We're married
Yeah.
and co-founders. Yes.
Co-founders, yes. We'll get into that as well, but please
get into
continue.
that. But yeah, so I was like pretty like distressed. Right? I'm like, what can I do to make her feel better? And I was willing to do absolutely anything, right? And that's when I begin like my research on looking at natural, herbal, alternative, plant-based cures. And that's when we did have a small understanding about like cannabis, but always in like the recreational aspect, but never really understood it medically. Then after looking at global literature like available worldwide, that really piqued in our like interest and curiosity. And when we actually like dug deep, we found out, wow, this oil can really be the solution for the pain, for the stress, for the bone repair, for the inflammation, for the scarring of it.
Was there any company that was solving, like, was there any
In
company
India,
that was, yeah, in
At that point of
2017,
time,
nobody.
nobody.
Medical cannabis, thinking about it, was like ganja. Okay, so it was no legal.
When you
medical-
think about it, it's for recreational purposes.
Yeah.
at
It
that
was
point.
all
Nobody was talking
all of
medical.
like the black
Right.
market. But there was
And I'm guessing that time is also the time when US and Canada were just about to legalize it.
they had legalized
They
it.
had?
It had
20,
been
yeah.
it had been a few like years then. But the whole aspect was that in India we didn't have enough like substance as well as
No
like
literature
research.
available,
Right? Of course,
yeah.
we had it from like an Ayurvedic angle, but nothing from a modern study clinical sort of like a place and validation,
Right.
right? And so like once like we begin like researching, we found that hey, this oil can really help, and that's when we like got to using like medical cannabis. We had like friends and family like flying like abroad. They bought in like a few like bottles with them, and
So, no cosmetic surgery, none of that took place, just stitches. I mean, you can see there's barely any scars.
Yeah.
If you look at the photo from before versus now, like you will really be able to, see how drastic it was. And I think what happens is when you come out of something and you've, recovered, you have this very strong moral obligation that I am going to go out there and share this experience with everybody, and whoever can benefit from it, you really want to help them because you've had this whole experience yourself.
it's like seeing like a second part of life, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
When one day life just like comes to like a stop and you're actually like fighting for life,
Yeah.
that can bring in
Change.
bring in a lot of change like within you, right? You don't see the world the same way anymore. Your perspective on things change,
Hmm.
and that's exactly what happened. So I think like right after that, this was in her first year of college.
I'm sorry. So, did the oil basically help you with your recovery in terms of your?
Yeah, so I was on dual treatment. Obviously, I was still on allopathy because of the gravity of the condition. But once I started consuming the oils, the beauty of the oils is that it works in present time. So I was obviously, the pain was much better, but I was also emotionally feeling better. And I was on dual treatment. So topically, also, we were applying the oils on the
Hmm.
scars of the face. But I was in an equation where I was like, if I have to anyways be a patient on the bed, I might as well be this one, where at least, I'm more optimistic and
You're
the journey is much
mentally
better.
having a better time, right?
And, you're emotionally more receptive, you're actually wide awake, you're just not lying numb on the hospital beds. And even for your family surrounding you is going through a very, very traumatizing
Hmm.
time, seeing you in that condition. So that really, really helped. And I think with the scarring, obviously with the bone repair as well, with the scarring as well, the topical treatments, the dual treatment really helped. Pain management, of course, stress, anxiety, all of these are byproducts when you
and
consume
just
medical cannabis.
and just one like disclaimer here. So it's not to downgrade any stream of medicine, right?
Hmm.
We absolutely
Of
believe
course.
that every stream of like medicine is completely relevant. Everything has its own place and time.
Right.
It's like this, right? So you have like allopathy medicine, quick results, fast acting, but there are potential side effects.
Correct.
Then you have like an Ayurvedic medicine, which takes in like a longer time to show effects, more long lasting, sustainable,
More organic also.
more organic, but it might take time, right? If you I mean go with like your kneecap like severed
Hmm.
and you go bleeding, I can't say come, I'll heal you with like Ayurveda. You need like an intervention, right?
Right.
So like medical cannabis fits right in between. If I had to draw like a Venn diagram,
Venn
it fits
diagram.
right in between that, where it gives you the instant results that you need. It is still herbal, completely Ayurvedic, and it's also good for like a long-term sustenance as well, right?
Interesting.
And
Okay.
that was
Yeah.
and that
Another
was like,
aspect that I want to get into here, I'm sorry to cut you off, is with these painkillers that you had to take. I'm guessing, like in the US, I hear a lot about it that these are addictive drugs. In India, I
Right.
don't hear a lot
Opioids.
about it, right? So, was that something that you were also seeing in terms of?
So, an interesting study that we came across when we were looking to bring down alternative remedies was that in states in the US where there is a high amount of opioid dependency or addiction, wherever medical cannabis had been legalized, there was a drastic dip in opioid addiction in those
Wow.
relevant
Okay.
states. So, that was obviously very
Hmm.
helpful as well. And in India, also, you have numerous deaths that happen because of opioids overdose, because of the medication.
so
So
that itch like remained with us for like a year or two, and we're like,
yeah,
we have to do something in this space. So I think around our third year of our like college, we took an entire like semester off. Our parents thought that ये बच्चे लोग
Guy.
they've absconded.
yeah,
अभी क्या होएगा, right? What's gonna happen? They've just, I mean,
How did your parents allow you to
they
just?
did not allow us.
It's a you don't even want to get
You
into
don't.
it. It's
That's
a very long
that's
story.
that's another podcast.
Okay.
Right? That's another podcast. Let's not get into that here. But somehow, hook or crook, we left and we're like, no, we really want to understand where this plant comes from. We really want to understand the history with this plant, and we really want to understand how it is utilized in India, what is its roots, and how can we make this accessible for people across India. We didn't know how.
Yeah, we
Right.
didn't go with
We did not know
big
how.
aspirations. Our simple goal was how can you make the plant more accessible?
And this is in 2019, I'm guessing.
2017.
2017.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is in 2017
Like-
itself.
Like 2017 was like
Ending
when
was
her
the
her
accident.
her,
Oh, when we
her
went to the
accident
Yeah,
mountain.
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
And 2019 was like when we took that
To the
that
yeah.
Right.
few months like sabbatical and went there to discover this plant, different regions, because of course like we're all like city like dwellers, right? We don't really understand what happens up there in the north, right?
There's a huge disconnect also because
it's a huge
yeah.
it's a huge like disconnect, and at that point in time I would also had to like really learn my Hindi and refine on that as well, right? So it's very small things which actually played like a big like pivotal part, right? And a few months there, learning about this plant, spending time with farmers there, the actual folks that have been keeping this our cannabis
Culture
culture
alive.
alive in India, right? These are your true OGs.
Yeah.
They're keeping this culture alive even though it is banned, prohibited. So what we saw, they changed our worlds forever. Because we come from South India, right? Here there's not much mention about cannabis or hemp or ganja, whatever it is, right? Of course, it's used like recreationally. But up there in the north, we saw the true tradition of cannabis. We saw it used in not only the clothes, but also in their socks, in like bhang ke
Hemp
chutney,
rope. Yeah, I remember I went to
bags,
everything.
Everything.
You see it everywhere. And I remember I went to not my direct nani, one of my cousin nannies, nani only.
What's a cousin nani?
I mean, like
No,
my
I get
mom's
that, I get
mom.
that, I get
Yeah,
that.
my mom's sister, and she takes out this jar. It's full of bhang ke beej, and she's so candid about it. She's like, "हाँ, bhang ke beej,
And
हम
we
तो
were
इस
shocked.
हर रोज खाते हैं इसको." And we are like, "bhang
We were
ke
shocked. I'm
beej."
like, Nani ji, bhang ke beej, aapke paas.
And that
Huh,
time though, you
beta?
guys didn't know about it. So
At that time, you were like cannabis,
Yeah,
we
ganja.
were ganja. We were like we had all of like our radars on, and we were also at that phase. We were just starting to build like our relationship with the plant, just like discovering. Then we saw in the north, there's so much tradition, such a rich culture with it, and then when we actually researched and searched, we actually found that like cannabis was one of the 5 sacred plants mentioned in our
Vedas.
Vedas.
Yeah.
Vedas,
Which is
yeah.
very, very interesting, right? As in, it's been used in religious like sacraments from centuries and centuries. So cannabis has never been like a modern concept for India. It's something so deep rooted within us. There's actually been used by gods. It's been used by the people. It's been used in like ancient time for like medicine, and that really transformed and changed like our perspective, right? Because there we saw farmers growing this plant not out of the need for money, but just out of tradition that they have been growing in since centuries and centuries. And now what happens is that in most of these like remote mountain villages, you have a lot of ghost villages which happen, right? Because people leave in search of employment or jobs,
Better economic
or better,
opportunities, and yeah.
right? So this is a great problem also we also wanted to like look to solve for, right?
Yeah.
How can we keep farmers in their own land, in their own places, living on these mountains and growing $1 billion crop?
Interesting.
Right?
So before you go ahead, just to clarify for the audience also that when you talk about it being part of our scriptures and our history,
Yeah.
people don't realize that it was only like a few decades ago that it came, like it legally was banned,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
In the NDPS Act of 1965. I think before that there was
1985.
1985, sorry. Before that there was nothing. There was no ban. It was like a gray area you can use.
Yeah, we have a very deep-rooted cultural significance with the plant. In fact, we're a land of traditional medicine, and a lot of our culture is rooted in Ayurveda. So, if you look at Ayurvedic classical formulations, 191 classical formulations use hemp and cannabis as an ingredient in them. If you look at the folk stories, in the 4th book of the Vedas, it's the Atharva Veda, you have the first mention of cannabis as one of the 5 sacred plants and herb from the 5 kingdoms of herbs that is used to ease anxiety. If you look at the folk stories about Lord Shiva again, it's actually an interesting one. So they say a guardian angel lives in the leaves of the cannabis plant, and one day Lord Shiva had a fight with his family, and he stomped off into the fields. And it was a hot, sunny day, so he decided to take shade under a tree. Now he was obviously baffled because of the dispute, and he wakes up and he decides to consume the leaves of the plant, which happened to be the cannabis plant. As he did that, he was instantly rejuvenated, and that's how he got the name of being the lord of the bhang. And
Yeah.
now people today, you see, during Holi, Mahashivratri, everybody consumes it
Yeah.
as an ode to Lord Shiva. So we
Interesting.
have this is 2000 BC, the first
Correct.
mention of cannabis in
And
our
that-
scriptures.
And this is like one thing that makes me really like emotional, angry, upset, everything at the same time. I really have like mixed feelings about this. Just imagine this, okay? Just imagine a world in which the US has come to India. They have taken like yoga from us. They've gone back to the West, modernized yoga, made it into a $1 billion industry.
Modernize Ayurveda also in
Yeah.
Leave that also, right? Let's speak about one thing. They took it,
right.
like they modernized it, made it into a $1 billion industry, and then they got yoga banned in India. How would you feel?
Wow. Yeah.
That's
Would
what
you
happened
feel
with
would you
cannabis.
feel good? That's exactly what happened with cannabis. So in 1961, the US had put a lot of pressure on the UN, and they were against like a war on drugs, right? And from 1961, they actually asked India to ban cannabis. India said, no ways. This is a part of our roots, our culture. We are not going to ban this plant, because if we ban it, it's going to create chaos. There's going to be ruckus on the streets if we ban this plant. So in the story nobody knows is that India actually fought long and hard for 24 years, from 1961 to 1985, before actually putting a ban on cannabis according to the NDPS Act 1985.
Right.
At that point of time.
65 is when the
1961. 1961.
Yeah, that's the UN convention.
1961, like UN like convention on narcotic drugs, like
Correct.
started putting pressure, saying that you have to ban heroin, cocaine, all of these hard drugs. One among them were cannabis. Right? But India actually fought for that. It said, okay, fine, everything else is cool. We're all right with that. We're not going to ban cannabis. It's a part of our culture. And like the connection we have with cannabis, nobody has that connection with it. The word indica is also from India. Right? So India fought that long, and then they said, no, we're not going to ban it. But then in 1985, there was like a lot of pressure, and then we were forced to sort of like ban this plant. But even while banning that plant in 1985, India was still reluctant. They said, okay, we're going to ban this plant, but we're not going to ban the entire plant. And today our entire like business runs like because of that law, right? Where it essentially said that the flower, charas, resin,
Fruiting
marijuana,
tops,
ganja,
basically.
fruiting tops of the plant were to be banned. Extracts from those fruiting tops were to be banned. But the act exempted the seeds and the leaves and even the stalk, right?
Yeah.
Which you could use.
Yeah.
And now we have it like used in like very like regulated ways, right? So the law actually exempted these parts of the plant and prohibited only one aspect of it. But after seeing that ban, that sort of like created public like perception that this is bad, this is a drug,
It's a
this is
taboo.
like a taboo.
When you
So-
think of cannabis, a smoke screen pops up in your head.
You'll see Bob Marley holding a joint somewhere. So the thing is that what we are battling is that period.
Right.
That period of stigmatization.
And what's interesting about this plant is also that the various different aspects and ways in which you can use, right? You can use leaves differently, you can use seeds differently,
Take a
stems
wild
differently.
guess. How many products and applications do you think this single plant has?
Take a guess. Give me a
In
number.
my head, 6.
Come
What?
on.
Come on.
Be
a little
thoda
more.
optimistic in life, yaar. Come on, little bit of optimism.
No, like what I'm talking about is the different parts of the plant that can be used is like
Yeah, so hemp is a zero
How many
waste
products
crop.
can you make from
You
it?
can use it from the seed till the flower. Everything can be used.
Every
Right.
single part.
Now, in your wildest imaginations, if you had to guess, how many products and applications this single plant has?
okay, a random number 80.
25,000.
25,000.
What?
Yes.
He's
You
thought
can
I'd
make-
stop at
Wait,
25.
what?
You can make 25,000 products with cannabis
And I'll tell you an interesting
across
thing.
20 industries.
And
Whoa.
so they say from hemp you can make roti, kapda, makan, sab kuch. So you can make, you have clothing, you have paper, you have animal shelter, you have ropes, you have textiles, you have medicine, you have food. I mean, the list goes on. If
She
you really
forgot
start,
one: roti, kapda, makan, or dawai.
Dawai also.
Right?
Wow.
But the
so-
saying is roti,
yeah,
kapda,
yeah, yeah,
makan.
I know. But no, that's a great addition.
Yeah.
But 25,000?
So in fact, like in other like, okay, so which world heritage UNESCO site in India uses hemp? Take a wild guess.
Come on, you can't ask him to guess that.
Yeah.
It's
Humpy? Humpy is up.
The Ellora Caves.
Okay.
Right? So you have hemp even being used over there. And
In
this
how?
is some 1500 years ago, right? So
Okay.
like what they essentially discovered was that the walls of these caves were being eaten by like silverfish,
Okay.
right? And different like bacteria and moisture were like ruining the walls. So like the engineers back at that time came up with like a superb solution, right? Saying that they'll take hemp, they'll take lime, they'll take clay, and they'll prepare like a plaster and they'll apply it on these walls. And that has actually kept the cave intact from all of these years.
So that the layer, so when you go
The
to the
layer.
Ellora caves right now and you see the layer, that's
That's because of hemp. And
Right.
and the again, just sort of relating it back to like our like earlier conversation. The sad thing is that everyone thinks that building with hemp and hempcrete is a Western technology. Just FYI, you can
Right.
build an entire home also with hemp,
okay.
right? They think it's like a Western technology from France. But we Indians have known about it since centuries.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
that's the question I fail to understand, that why don't we respect our culture, our heritage, and our belongingness and the sciences that we have, right? Why are we always being rule takers rather than rule makers?
Right.
This is a
And I
fundamental
think-
question.
I think India is the next 50 years is going to be India's
Absolutely.
move to
Time to
take
shine.
time to shine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's
I'll tell you
interesting.
another interesting fact.
Okay.
So, from India's contribution to the global hemp market, this also you guess.
I know you told me the numbers. So
Oh.
it's like but for the audience, please tell them.
0.001%. And for your kind information, hemp grows in over 60% of India's land as a wild and a feral crop. In
60%.
60% of India, hemp grows as a wild crop.
These
in
are
a
wild numbers you're throwing right
In
now.
a single state in India.
Y'all are good at like research, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like fact verify all of
We
this.
will
Yes,
have to.
you should. And in a single state in India, you can produce and grow more hemp than all of Europe. So
Wow.
that is the potential India holds against the world to be a global leader when it comes to hemp. And
Then why is India not, if not in use in the country, why isn't it exporting at least?
And that's the reason for this podcast, no? to bring about like the awareness of
Yeah.
it, right? The thing is that this should actually be a big like crisis, because this plant can not only transform billions of patients in India, not only transform billions of farmers, economic like growth opportunities, employment. It can also contribute to our macro aims, which is also like sustainability
Yeah,
in a very large way, because this is a zero waste crop.
right.
yeah,
You're talking about a plant that does not
require any pesticides.
any
to grow.
pesticides. It grows in less water. It has a growth cycle of about 90 to like 120 days. So we're speaking about a plant that can grow rapidly from 0 to 15 feet in less than 120 days.
So it becomes very conducive for
And
farmers
it's
to
not,
cultivate.
is it seasonal?
So you can grow hemp almost all throughout the year,
Okay.
right? And so now, how do we make paper?
Trees.
Trees. Are you sure? Trees. You're right.
You're making me dumb myself.
Just
Okay.
playing with that. So you make paper using trees. How long do like trees take to grow?
Years, like.
How many years?
I mean,
20?
depending,
30?
yeah, correct.
So that poor tree
Hmm.
is going to grow for 20, 30 years. And after that, its end purpose is to be cut to be used as
Right.
paper.
Hmm.
Isn't that horrible?
Yeah.
Of course, we needed to like use that. But now there is there is like science in which you can make hemp paper. Right? So you're speaking about a plant that grows in 120 days. Every cycle of it, you can make hemp paper, far more sustainable. And isn't it
Far
like
more
a
conducive for a
zero-sum
farmer
equation?
Yeah.
because of crop rotation as well. And in India, I think 58% of our economy is dependent on agriculture alone.
Yeah.
So, with hemp coming into the picture, we have a great potential to benefit, like he said, multiple stakeholders at the same time and create a circular economy. Right from the person who grows it, which is your farmer, to the consumer, obviously the planet because of how sustainable it is, and the economy as well because it will help grow the GDP of the country
Got it.
So
because
that-
of its multiple applications in various industries.
Yeah.
So we're speaking about a plant and a vision in which we see that farmers can potentially grow for industries. Isn't that a beautiful bridge?
It's a beautiful bridge,
To
and
have
what
farmers growing for industries.
my question here is, US, Canada legalized it, and they had a huge contribution to their economy. But then it was mostly for the medical and the recreational use of the legalization.
Largely like recreational.
Correct. Why haven't they started using it for other purposes like making paper and
They
moving
have,
towards
right?
the
So,
sustainability?
so,
They have.
so
Yeah.
now see, when you ban something for so long and so far, you create a lot of like cultural perceptions with it, a lot of stigmas with it, and that also stops a certain like scientific like advancements in it, right? Because you need then separate permissions to even do like a research about the plant, right? Even if I had all the money to like do like research, you still have to go through certain protocols and steps, right? Which creates a lot of like friction for the entire industry at large, right? So now there is of course a big wave, and what we see is that hemp is going to be the next green revolution, right? So now people are really like opening up their eyes to it. Industries are exploring its like applications, right from your pharma to like EVs to bunch of different like industries that are all looking at hemp in a large way.
Why can you not talk about other industries compared to your industry that you're in,
I
which is
mean,
cannabis?
to give you a very simple answer, take it however you want. It's up to you. If you can grow a plant in your backyard that can give you medicine, will you need anything else? Of course, you'll need other things for like other reasons, but I'm just speaking about your general problems that you have, like pain, anxiety,
Interesting.
inflammation.
Interesting.
And right now in India, we obviously want, so cannabis and hemp comes under the Ayush body, which is your Ayurvedic body. Right now, because it's recognized as an Ayurvedic medicine, there is still a certain strata of people that would dismiss it as natural medicine and they won't validate it for its clinical evidence. But now we are backing it with scientific clinical claims as well. So there is scientific validation, and that makes the whole story around hemp and cannabis complete. That it is not, yes, it is herbal, but also it has so many medical benefits to it. And that's where I come back to the point of, did you know that in the human body, within your body and within every mammal's body, there exists a system that is named after the cannabis plant?
Really?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's called the endocannabinoid system. Right?
And
It's an
the-
entire system in your body that's named after the cannabis plant. It's a very funny thing because it's not even there in our like medical science textbooks.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, it's like a recent like discovery in 1990s
Okay.
by like an Israeli scientist, Dr. like Meshulam. And after this like discovery, it's just so fundamentally important that cannabis even has an interaction with our own body.
The scientific literature states that the system is comprised of three parts, which are your endocannabinoids, your enzymes, and your cannabinoid receptors. Now, in the human body, you have two types of cannabinoid receptors. One is CB1, which is present in your nervous system, and the other is your CB2 receptor. And now the sole purpose of the endocannabinoid system is to bring your body back into a state of homeostasis,
Right.
which means balance.
Okay.
For example, if you are feeling hot, the endocannabinoid receptors will signal to your sweat glands to release sweat so you can gain balance again. Or if
Right.
you are hungry, your stomach will growl, and that is your endocannabinoid system in action. Now, because of modern day lifestyle habits, the way we've been going about our, just how we live life these days is obviously not as healthy as our ancestors used to live. Many people have an endocannabinoid deficiency, which is why you procure cannabinoids from external sources such as plants. When it comes from plants, it's called phytocannabinoids. Phyto means from plants and endo means within because you already have it. So the cannabis plant mirrors the same receptors that your body already has. So when you consume cannabis through medical means such as oils, tinctures, and so on, the phytocannabinoids go and bind to your cannabinoid CB1 and CB2 receptors present in your body to then improve the functioning of your system so that you can bring yourself back into a state of homeostasis whenever you go out of balance.
I know there was a
Sorry
lot of...
for the...
It's okay.
It's a lot of medical science, but I think it's important. So
Yeah.
in simple English, it's like a lock and key mechanism.
Correct.
The keys are these like endocannabinoids in your body, and duplicate keys are the ones that you find from the
Cannabis plant.
Yeah.
which is like CBD, THC, and
Because
all of
it's
these
not
molecules.
like fat, which can be produced when needed. It's not stored. It's only produced, your endocannabinoids.
It's synthesized like on demand.
On demand basis,
Right.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So again, going back to the conversation about the economy in general, right? The cannabis industry is fighting against a bunch of different industries, right? I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys can't talk about it, but I can, right? So you're fighting against the medical industry, you're fighting against the tobacco industry, right? And if you're talking about it being used for clothing and construction, then there are other industries that also play a role in it, right? Have you felt any sort of conflict at this point with what you're doing right now, which is the CBD oil and other products that you're doing through India Hemp Organic?
In fact, I would say it's more of, instead of saying it as a fight, it's more of like an issue of like integration.
Right.
Because you can use cannabis across all of these industries.
Yeah.
Right. You can use it to make herbal tobacco, like substitutes. Like you can use it in like pharma. You can use it in like construction. You can use it across the board. Right. So like the fundamental question is, how do you integrate cannabis across all of these like industries, and that can only happen by first unlocking like the value chain and supply chain.
Got it.
Right. So once like you unlock that, and you have like a lot more like cultivation of the plant which is happening at a commercial level, then you're able to use this plant and its part across different like industries, of course, without like stigmas attached, right? And that is when you truly unlock like the value of this industry. And here, like the big pharma, of course, like they're looking at like cannabis in a big way. So it's not against them. It's about how do they also like integrate this into their products as well. How do they integrate and create products of their own as well, right? Because if a solution is there like this, it's not only for a particular player to take like advantage of it. It's for the entire ecosystem as whole to adopt. And that's when you're able to transform and impact lives at a grander level. Versus sort of alienating cannabis, saying that this is alag, this is something else.
Which is what brings me back to the question that why isn't the government doing anything about it?
They are now.
They are.
So if you see a lot of like governments across Himachal,
there are 3 to 4 states that have legalized the cultivation of marijuana for medical purposes, yes?
For industrial purposes.
For industrial purposes, you have like Uttarakhand, right? Which has like legalized, I think, in about 2018.
Okay.
And now you also have like Uttarakhand as well as like Himachal putting out like a draft policy for medicinal purposes.
Right.
Which means like they'll make like the flowers also like legal, irrespective of whatever content of CBD or THC in the plant, to make it useful for like medicinal application, right? So that's also happening. So yes, states are moving, and so when you push a ball, right? Say like assume you have like a 50 feet ball, you're trying to push that ball. When you first push the ball, there's a lot of like inertia that gets created because you need a high amount of force to push that ball.
Right.
And say that ball is moving from point A to point B. Do you think that the ball gets easier to move, or there's lesser force required once it's in motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So you need the most amount of force when you start moving the ball.
Got it.
And that's where we are exactly today. right? Where we're trying to
You
move,
guys are trying to use your strength to push the ball right now.
Yeah.
not just strength, using
Collectively.
of all
The
industries
industry.
Of
together,
course.
like different players together, different stakeholders together, because you need like consensus across the board.
Right.
It can't just happen from one push. You need everybody to push that ball.
Right.
Once that ball gets pushed, then you have a certain like butterfly and domino effect that gets created. And that's exactly where we are. We're seeing that ball. The ball is just about to move in a very big way, right? And I think that is going to change like the orbital path for like the cannabis industry in India, and we're just at the cusp of it, right? I feel that this year and next year are big years in terms of like policy, like developments, regulatory structural changes which are going to happen, and I think that the evolution of the cannabis India is going to grow in a very big way.
Are you guys working in any way with the government to facilitate this process of how to move forward in this sphere?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So like we have been sort of like knowledge partners for like the government since like a very long time, and in fact, so like the problem that we had faced was that a bunch of companies, us different companies together, were all sort of going with the
Individual voice.
same like individual voice, good like intention, but voicing their like opinions in slightly fragmented ways.
There was no collaboration between
There
all
was
of them.
Yeah.
there was absolutely no like collaboration, right? There was different voices being heard, and like the government also took these like interpretations like differently, right? And the government always loves it when you go and speak to them and approach them
As a collective.
as a collective,
correct.
right? And that sort of like helped us to construct like the entire like formation of our association, which is essentially called as PIMCHA, which is called as like the Pan India Medical Cannabis and Hemp Association.
Okay.
Right? So this is where like a bunch of us like passionate like companies have all come together, and we are driving like the objectives of like the macro things that we need in the entire hemp and cannabis industry through this like association body. So
When was this association
Last year.
created?
Last
Last year.
year.
And how many brands are part of this, or how many, like, is it
I
just
think
the
16.
15 to 16.
is it just the brands that are working in
Not
this?
just the band, absolutely not. So
Who
this
are
is
the
this is
stakeholders?
not like the purpose of the association. The purpose of the association is not really to have the brands.
Yeah.
We want to bring in stakeholders across the board.
Right.
We want to bring in like advisors. We want to bring in stakeholders from like government bureaucrats to
Correct.
like officers, to farmers, to patient groups. So all ecosystem partners that can potentially see a benefit of cannabis becoming legalized in India will onboard onto this like association body. So we have a unified voice.
Got it.
And when you have like a unified voice, you're able to create more inertia and more movement to sort of move that ball I was talking
I get
about,
what you mean.
right? Because then you can go with one big bam versus going as small
Fragments of
voices and
voices.
fragments
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
dust just
I
barking.
think it's it's goes without saying the collective voice is always obviously more powerful than the individual voice, and we're still at the beginning of creating the industry and the movement for cannabis in India. So we all obviously have to come together to set the norms, as you're creating this category as well.
Interesting. I want to get into a little bit of how you guys are running your company right now. Right. First question is, where you guys are making CBD oil, which is an extract from the plant itself.
Full spectrum oils, which means that all 113 plus cannabinoids, CBD being one of them, are used in making the oils that we
But
use.
CBD oil is how you guys market it.
We don't market it as CBD oil. We market it as full spectrum oils.
Okay, interesting.
Because,
CBD oils are like not legal.
isolates are not allowed as well.
Yeah,
Didn't
isolates are
Ayush Ministry allow it in 2018? The use of CBD oil for...
So how it essentially works is that, let's say you have a root powder like haldi, right? Haldi has this one active like ingredient in it called as curcumin. Now, according to like Ayurvedic principles, you can't extract curcumin from it. But like, can you keep haldi in its true and natural form? Yes. And that's exactly the same role it has with like cannabis, where it like does not look at it at like a molecular level in terms of like compounds. It looks at it, okay, this is an extract of like the cannabis leaf, which is known as like Vijaya leaf extract. Does it have like CBD in it? Yes. Does it have other cannabinoids in it? Yes. Does it have like terpenes in it? Yes.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
So it's a full spectrum form, and I think that is absolutely right in a way. But it also, there is a lot of also like we have like a lot more like we have to do like in terms of standardization of this as well, right? So if like so in fact, a lot of people don't know this, but India is one of the largest federally legal countries in the world today. And what I mean by that is, if you look at US, yes, like CBD is legal, recreational marijuana is legal, but you can only use this in state-wise,
Certain
right?
states,
You
yeah.
can't have it like manufactured in one state and then shipped across the entire US
Right.
because it's legal only state-wise.
Right.
Whereas in India, it's legal at a federal level.
Got it.
That means that you can manufacture in one state and have that same product distributed across states
Got
without
it.
separate like jurisdiction,
Interesting. Okay.
as long as it is with its like prescribed format.
Got it. So when you guys create your product, right, these extracts that you take out, are you guys growing the plant on your own, or like say, do you guys have farmers that are growing the plant on their own, or how are you guys procuring the raw material for it?
So
It's a multi-state
it's a
supply chain.
multi-state supply chain. So, like in one aspect, we have the hemp seeds, which comes from our farming communities based out of based out of like UK, which is like Uttarakhand. Then the hemp leaves come from like the excise department. Now, interestingly, we have a lot of these bhang producing
Wait, sorry.
states.
So just for the audience, you're buying your raw material also from the government.
Not all of it, just
Just
the
a part
leaves,
of it, yeah.
leaves of it, right? Because in all of these like bhang producing states like Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, you have the excise department going out there and doing like storage of leaves, right? Which are then sold to like license holders. To then use in like before, like it was like used in like bhang like golas, bhang drinks, which were, and you had these properly government authorized bhang shops as well, right? So we taken that same supply chain and we make like Ayurvedic medicines from that. That's in a very simple way as to what we do.
Anyway, so I wanted to jump into another aspect that, again, these are rumors that I've heard. I want you to give me a confirmation on this. A lot of the hemp, 100% hemp organic products, right? Especially when you talk about these bags, the hemp bags and hemp gloves and etc., whatever clothing products that are made. It's basically, I've heard that it's for marketing purposes, is what they say. It's 100% hemp. Is that true? Does that actually happen? Or is it actually 100% hemp?
You're speaking only in reference to textiles?
Textile, as of now, yes.
Right. It
depends on the brands.
Yeah.
Of course, like the marketing and like the product. So like it all essentially, depends there. But of course, now if you ask me, I've said hemp is great, hemp is amazing. But should you use 100% hemp in everything? No. So you have 100% hemp bags which are there. Then you have a hemp and cotton blend. Hemp and wool blend. You have different blends which you use hemp also in it. Sometimes 15%, 20% of it is hemp, and like the rest of it is like cotton, which also makes sense, right? Because you're using lesser cotton. If you're using like lesser cotton, then you need like lesser water to grow that cotton, and it also creates like a better like balance as well, right? And also like sometimes like the material, if it's 100% hemp, like may not feel
as good.
It might feel a little bit rough, right?
a bit more rough, yeah.
A bit more rough.
Like khadi.
Right.
So if you like blend it also, like you have like a certain outcome. So it's not about, of course, the brand has to be honest with saying if it's either like blended or not. But yes, that's what's there.
Interesting. Okay. So again, when we talk about cannabis, most people's question is the recreational aspect of cannabis itself, right? Do you think India is going to reach a stage where it's going to be used for recreational purposes?
Not in a very long time.
That's
That's
time
not
will
even
tell.
what we're fighting for.
And that's not even the
currently.
cause that we're fighting.
I mean,
Why
our
not?
whole, I'll tell you, the whole battle as the industry is, right now hemp has 25,000 different uses, which we earlier spoke about. But it's most widely recognized for the one use, which creates this whole taboo against it, and people consider it to be wrong or bad and so on, and they dismiss its many other uses which could then benefit the economy and
Just
so on.
for audience's clarity, you're talking about smoking.
Yeah, recreational is smoking.
Correct.
Yeah. Now our whole fight is that why only focus on that one use when there are so many other uses for the plant. So obviously, and if you look at how developments have taken place in other countries such as the US and so on as well, they led with a very, very strong medical story. And for us, I think in India, I don't know, we haven't even looked at the recreational aspect because that's not our aim. We really want to focus on, when we speak about health per se, that, okay, this can benefit like from a nutritional standpoint, if you're consuming hemp seeds, a pregnant woman can have it, a small child can have it, a grandparent can have it. That is the whole narrative. When you speak about the medical perspective, we want to highlight stories where it's helped people in serious chronic conditions around pain management, around epilepsy, Parkinson's diseases, insomnia, depression, cancer, and all of these conditions. So the minute you start propagating for its recreational use, you're back to square one. You're kind of mitigating all the effort you're putting in to really develop the industry for a cause that you stand for.
It's like we want to like enable a conversation in which even a grandmother would feel like comfortable to speak about. Yes, I have hemp seeds for my whatever nutrition, and then I use like hemp oil for like my arthritis pain if she has any. Right? Those conversations don't get like highlighted, or you lose like the value of that if you just start pushing for like recreation.
It's just the narrative and the story.
The narrative
behind,
needs to change,
yeah.
right? So it's about how do we systematically break down a stigma, and how do we change that entire narrative? And once we build a strong enough proxy for like medicine, are we against recreation? No, not at all. Personally, no, right? But right now, that's not our fight. Our fight is for healing. Our fight is for wellness. Our fight is so that patients across all tiers have access to good quality medicines.
And you'll be surprised to know our oldest consumer today, she was 96 last year, would have turned 97 by now. 97-year-old grandmother using our sleeping oil because she has ditched her sleeping pills.
Which she was on for 20 years.
She has ditched her sleeping pills and shifted to this medical cannabis oil that she consumes on a regular basis to, have a deeper, more sound sleep. So obviously, these are the stories we want to glorify. The minute, and we've seen the conversation change when we first launched in 2020, and now as we've progressed. First, anytime we'd put up a stall at an offline event or anywhere we had so many one-to-one interactions where the first question was, will I get high off this? Isse nasha hoga kya? And that
you would have people like pointing, wo dekho.
Correct.
See over there. And people will be hush, hush, hush.
Right.
Now, when we put up stalls, ask her, people just, you guys are doing the right thing.
Yeah, in tier 1 cities, I would say, people are now more aware because the awareness piece is very, very important for us as an industry.
That's a great point that you bring up, right? In the tier 1 cities, and you also spoke about how it needs to be across the different tiers, right? As of now, what I've seen is that these products are very expensive to sort of purchase.
Absolutely.
And of course, there's no education. I'm guessing there is no education in the tier 3, tier 4.
There is. You'll actually be like surprised, but in a lot of these tier 2, tier 3 states and places, you actually have like cannabis used also even in your Ayurvedic forms, in polyherbal formats as well. So now like the conversation is, how do we make this more accessible as like a medicine period, right? Now it is of course more so like positioned towards premium tier 1 audience. That's just because of the entire supply chain constraints, right? Once supply chain is unlocked, and once you're able to unlock it to a large extent, then you have a higher amount of demand.
Right.
And then you're able to meet the economies of scale.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Sick. I think you guys have given a lot of insights into this whole industry, and I really, really appreciate it. I was, at least for most of the podcast, I was mind blown with everything that you guys told me. Last question, what is the future of this industry? What is the future from the India hemp organic point of view as well?
So the future of this industry is very bright, right? Of course, it is like a sunrise industry, right? So it is only bound to grow and grow like over time, right? And do we see it as an industry which can create value? Of course. There's so much value that we are yet to create, have to create, and want to create, that once that entire value is unlocked, it's going to be beautiful, right? You're going to see transformation happen across the board.
And we're just at the tip of the iceberg. Trust me, it's not even begun yet.
It's not even begun. Nothing's begun yet, right?
And everybody's playing the long-term game because they see the long-term potential and the benefits of how the industry is going to shape itself.
People are probably going to come back to this podcast and say the next 30 years and going to be like, yes, these guys are talking about it.
That time we'll all be ancient. So,
Yeah.
So
From an India hemp organics perspective, we are, medicine has been at the heart of what we wanted to do. Going back to how we started, we're very focused on the health and wellness angle of the consumer, where we want to offer, holistic healing right from, okay, we're solving for diseases and ailments for the ailing that are spread across your mental and physical health conditions, pain, and so on, as well as for the ones that are already healthy. We're aiding their lifestyle through our nutrition line of products, and we'll continue to expand within these two ranges. Obviously, always ensuring quality and ethical ways of dispensing products. And even from a medical standpoint, all our products are the consumable products are prescription based, so we have that layer of security and safety for the patient. And yeah, we'll continue in the same direction forward, because we as individuals also are very passionate for the well-being of the consumer and the patient per se.
So in simple one line, we want to transform and change billions of lives. Billions of people across patients, farmers, everyone else needs to become like better versions of themselves, right? Through this plant, we see that as a good solution. Can we like utilize it, and can India take its stand to be a global leader in this space? Hopefully, yes, and we're going to make that happen.
And of course, this podcast is going to be a small part to getting that education out there for
Absolutely.
the audience, right?
Absolutely.
So awesome. Thank you guys so much. Guys, if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. And yeah,
Hit the bell icon.
hit the bell icon.
How can you forget that?
Awesome. Bye bye.